All right, the next part on General Wood's address to the Council of Foreign Relations, which he at the very beginning said that most would not find he would not find receptive to his speech because they were of a different mind. He knew that they were all for the war and for the money and the debt and everything else that would go along with it. So, I've already spoken about how even if Germany was successful, they couldn't ship in those days 3,000 miles over ocean a quarter of a million men. All right, now they can because of the aircraft. This is the next section. No army can attack us. If it is impractical, or at least exceedingly difficult for an army to cross 25 miles of channel, what valid grounds are there for supposing that a large army can 3,000 miles of ocean to invade a continent? Some will inquire, why should it not be possible for Germany to seize bases in Mexico or Central America and attack from those countries? Again, that presupposes an overwhelming sea power. But even if that sea power were present, there would again be the same difficulties of a 3,000-mile long line of communication for an invading army. And an army once landed must cross an exceedingly difficult terrain before ever arriving at the Texas border. I think that hypothesis may be safely dismissed. Panic first, then war. Now we come to the favorite bogey, air attacks. I quote from Major Al Williams' recent speech, reprinted in the Congressional Record. Oceans and extended lines of communication are still vital factors in modern warfare. President Roosevelt's panicky flight schedule for the air invasion of America is ridiculous. Now remember, Roosevelt was wanting to become a dictator. This was in the records back then. There are documents to support this also. Don't forget, he's a Roosevelt. Don't you get it? Doesn't matter that he was elected 3 times. Doesn't matter whether he did did the New Deal, putting people to work and forced labor like under the new Give Act. Hey, still alive and well, isn't it? But also the fact that he took all gold and silver coin out of circulation and enforced this Federal Reserve Act more firmly upon us. I can't say how I'd like to put it, but you get my drift. All right. President Roosevelt's panicky flight schedule for the air invasion of America is ridiculous, worthy of Hollywood, and certainly not of the White House. To support my argument against the president's wild flight schedule for a foreign air invasion of the United States, I offer a single incontrovertible reason. With all their air power, the Germans could not attack and subdue England from air bases 300 to 500 miles distance. Instead, they seized air bases on the north coast of Holland, Belgium, and France, 20 to 100 miles distant from the coast of England. Each and every stage of the fantastic itinerary for the air invasion of America would have to be conquered for the establishment of major air bases for the enemy attempting the job. The president must know this, but apparently the pattern is panic first, then war. All right, we know that nowadays we don't have to worry about that because a plane can cross the ocean without refuel. Well, yeah, it still can be refueled. But the thing is, there's support now, and it can be done. But also, what people don't realize is the extent of what we really have for capacity to defend the country. Take Hart, for example. And they use it for a lot of other stuff. Can you imagine what that kind of wattage coming down on a whole fleet of aircraft would do? They'd all drop into the ocean. All right. An exhausted Germany is helpless. All of this presupposes a completely victorious Germany, ready at the end of a long and costly struggle to immediately embark on a new and perilous adventure across 3,000 miles of ocean against a nation of 130 million people. We got 350 plus million. The present war represents 7 years of preparation on the part of Germany. That's because of the Versailles Treaty, where they were done just totally wrong on that. They guaranteed there'd be a second world war by what they put upon Germany at the Versailles Treaty hearings. All right. So-called total war represents a prodigal expenditure of labor, money, and effort. Steel is rapidly consumed. Aircraft and mechanical equipment are rapidly worn out. Reserves of all kinds are exhausted, not to mention the wear and tear on human beings. A nation that for 7 years has been given guns instead of butter is apt at the end of this war to demand more butter from its leaders. So, on every count, it seems inconceivable to me that Germany, at the end of the war, even if aided by its allies, who will be in a worse condition of exhaustion than Germany itself, will attack the United States. And if this country, with its 135 million people and its two great natural ocean barriers, cannot defend itself unaided by Britain or anybody else, it does not deserve to survive. The great nation is on the downward path to destruction because he saw what the C.F.R. was all about. All right. Now, if everybody, say we were just all of a sudden back to a republic, and say we did face a threat, if everybody, without thought of profit to self, but instead of ensuring the heritage of this country for not just themselves, but their children and their great grandchildren, and on down the lines, or even if they're childless, for the other members of their family line to ensure that they have freedom. It could be done. We just don't have the infrastructure, but we do have the people with the knowledge, all the machinists. You ought to be glad we have machinists still in this country, and the kind that can do it old school without computer aided. If you're a machinist, you can build your own engine lathe. You can build your own calipers. All right, let's get back on topic. Europe must have our goods. Now, as to our economic problems, an economic war after the war, the loss of our European, Asiatic, and South American trade, I have a high personal regard for Walter Lippmann's brains and ability, but I believe his picture of an unequal contest between a totalitarian economy and a free economy is misleading. After all, when two nations or two continents each have things the other needs, trade eventually, regardless of the feelings each may have for each other. Europe needs us more than we Europe. We need nobody if we get our shit together. Our materials and products are more important to her than hers to us. True, Germany has reduced largely its purchases from us, but more from necessity than choice. As far as South America is concerned, we can always obtain the lion's share of the trade of Mexico, Central America, Colombia, and Venezuela because we buy the metals of Venezuela, the coffee and bananas of Central America and Colombia, the oil of Venezuela. Well, we got Chavez now, but he thinks Obama's his good buddy, so why should there be a problem? Looks like I'm running out of time, and I will keep my finger on this spot and go to the next one. Thank you for watching. Thank you for getting this information and digesting it. That's the important thing, digesting the information.